When Senzo Meyiwa was killed, did you went to the scene?
I'm actually happy that I'm being asked on the issue of Senzo Meyiwa, and it's an issue that I wish I could spend time on it to clarify so that finally South Africans can get to hear the truth. And allow me, Chair, to deal with this Senzo Meyiwa issue. When Senzo Meyiwa, after Senzo Meyiwa was killed, I was the head of the Hawks in Gauteng. I was at home in Pretoria. I got a call from the acting provincial commissioner, who was General Musikiri at that time. I was at home at night. I didn't even know about the shooting. And it was around about 11 at night. And remember, Senzo was killed after 7:30, around about 7:30, early evening. And what I had to do as the head of the Hawks was to call a team to say, let's meet there. It's just like when a serious crime has been committed, we move, we go there. And what happened there is that as we moved, all of us, we got there, I ran straight to hospital. And simply because of the fact Senzo Meyiwa is a national key point. It's a national asset. It's not ordinary member where someone can say someone has been gunned out, then as the head of the house, I'll also go there. But because it was a national goalkeeper, we all had to react, and we went. Even General Musikiri, who was the acting provincial commissioner, we all went and we met at the police station, at the hospital. When I got to the hospital, it was packed, even in the passage, even in the ward where he was lying motionless. And everybody was crying there. Even myself, I could not make my way through into the ward. I saw him lying inside there, but from outside the ward. And then I realized that it won't work. I then said to General Musikiri, I will go to the house where now the investigation must start, because now the investigation process had to start. Now, for the investigation process to start, we then had to go to the scene of crime. When we get to the house where it happened, it was packed. Outside the yard, inside the yard, there was up and down movement in the house. I'm well trained when it comes to investigations. I'm 37 years doing what I'm doing. The very first thing is to take charge of the scene of crime. Mine was to give instructions and say, please, secure the scene, preserve the scene. This is a scene of crime. Now, the team had to make sure that they remove everybody on site to outside the yard so that it can be coordinated. The scene of crime can be coordinated. Remember, I arrived late at night when this thing happened almost after 7:30, and the scene was already processed by the officials. It was processed, cleaned. The experts have done their work. Now, when I arrived there, I also found MEC Sizakele Nkosi Malobane and other generals were there. Now, ours, we come here as a fact-finding team. We come in here, we knock, we sit down in the sitting room. It's clean, there's no blood, there's no spotty that you can see, everything is in place. And then we sit, we listen, we ask questions, what happened? This one explained, this one explained, this one explained, this one explained. This is the normal course of attending to crime scene. The MEC was there also, we were all listening. And then from there, General Musikiri and them came, arrived from hospital to join us. There were other generals, including General Musikiri. We all listened. And thereafter, it was a question of, General, are you taking it or am I taking it? As the Hawks, do I take the matter to run with or are you taking it? Then she said to me, the National Commissioner was Mayor Ria Pierre then said or suggested that this matter must be investigated by a team of experienced investigators. Now that already took us out of the way. Now we stood by when they made a press conference, a press briefing at that time that says there will be a team appointed to investigate and will run with this matter. We were standing by, no longer involved in the case. That is why even today, when this matter has been testified, I haven't submitted a statement. I haven't submitted I've never been called as a witness. It's almost at the end because I was not involved. I've seen messages that says I took $1 million and I did it, I shifted a firearm order. No. At what point would I have done that? So I just wanted to say to South Africans, I am not involved in the Senzo Meyiwa case. I've never done anything wrong. And there have been many teams, more than 10 different teams that were set to investigate this thing. I've done nothing that can actually cause the matter to be, not to be successful.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just give one because there's a warning already there, a red light before my colleagues takes over. The last one from me. Unfortunately, other issues are still under investigation because you said you are like a specialist, an expert when it comes to investigation. Because I don't want to eat time for my colleague. Can you confirm yes or no on the matter that that scene was not contaminated by your presence?
Not at all. It was never communicated by my presence. When I arrived, it was a done deal already. It was cleared. I mean, when you arrive and already it's trampled upon by many people, I was very late when we come there myself.
So were you the first person who arrived at the scene?
Not at all. I came after 12 there, when in fact this thing had happened after 7:30. So logically speaking, how can I be the first person to arrive past 12 when this thing happened at 7:30? One.
Wow. Good day. You know what, today I'm really, really very excited. Yes, really, really, really very excited. You know, as News for Sure, we are very, very happy to cover this story again of the Senzo Meyiwa case, the reaction from Sibiya's utterances in Parliament, but you must also give credit to Coolbuzz TV. Thank you for those short clips. I'm a subscriber myself on all my accounts. So guys, if you want to look at very short, nice interviews that are succinct, dealing with a particular issue, please holler there and subscribe to Coolbuzz TV. Now, guys, you know that we as News for Sure, we've been analyzing the Senzo Meyiwa case, and we have been unpacking a lot of stories about it. So in today's submission, we're saying that Sibiya's silence breaks the untold stories of what happened on the 26th of October, 2014. You must remember that everything that a person says in Parliament, you say things under oath, and everything that you say in Parliament is deemed as truthful. So lying in Parliament is a criminal offense. So now in this explosive testimony by General Sibiya of what really happened on a crime scene, it really is it hits me hard because I've listened to him and I've listened to the sequence of events. And I can tell you now, something is not adding up. Yes, something is not adding up. What do I mean by that? Remember, there is a court proceedings that is currently taking place. Within the court proceedings, we have received witnesses and we've listened to the evidence. But then before I go in there, we are actually going to be grateful that this matter, it's been long. It's always remained a mystery for over 10 years. We've never really heard anything from General Sibiya about what really happened there. So now at least we can we can start hearing, we can start working from his side of the story, and then we try to match it with the evidence that we've already had. And we must also be grateful to the MPs of Umkhonto we Sizwe. Thank you, honorable members, for doing something for us. You see, this thing, it's done for the people of South Africa. It's done for people who've remained in the dark for over 10 years. So we are grateful for you, honorable members of MK, for really asking these questions and sacrificing your time to actually ask the question that will only address the families, the mother who's concerned there somewhere in KZN, as well as us, soccer-loving people. Now, um, um, General Sibiya, in his testimony in Parliament, he even requests the chair to say, allow me to actually unpack what is happening, what happened on that day. The reason why I'm covering this reaction of General Sibiya, because we've always known that Shadrack Sibiya was one of the first respondents on the crime scene. And then now that we know that he's saying he's not the first respondent, now we now know that his testimony contradicts all the things that we've already had on a trial, the ongoing issues on a trial. We know that his testimony is contradicting everything. But what I've done for you, News for Sure, as usual, I've actually tried to prepare a presentation because I respect you guys, and I also want myself, whenever I am communicating with you guys, I have a form of a structure, basically. Let's just see if this thing will work correctly. I just hope you guys can see. Let's go in the presentation mode. Thank you. Perfect, perfect. All right. So this is a long-standing mystery. Why this thing matters? It matters the most because we've always thought that Shadrack Sibiya is one of the first respondents on a crime scene. But then now his testimony directly contradicts the narrative that is presented on Racha's court, on the ongoing court. Now, what he also says there in Parliament, he vehemently denies any wrongdoing or interference with the investigation. His account may clear his name or implicates the initial police officers that are investigating the fund. That it, you see, what he explained, it may clear his name or it will implicate or Brigadier Gininda by this whole thing that are currently presenting in court. Sibiya says that, you know what, I want to say to all South African, I am not involved in a Senzo Meyiwa case, nor I have done anything wrong. Now, this is quite strange because we all know the sequence of events. We know the witness that Racha trusts the most, which is Constable Zongo. Constable Zongo make a lot of mentioning of General Sibiya. Now, what we also know that Warrant Officer Makubo said he was called by General Sibiya to arrive there. Now, he says that he arrived after 12, but the version of Warrant Officer Makubo, the time that he arrives there, and then the discussion that took place between General Sibiya and Makubo, it really is a problem. Now, let's put in the Parliament side in terms of the clip that we played in this, in the context of comparing the actual case and what is currently happening now. Now now we know, sorry guys, actually got a call. So now that we know, I'm just gonna tell them, Gucci, I'm still recording. I'll phone them later on. Is so now that we know that there's the information that is before us in court. What is that information? The information is about the witnesses that have already testified on the Senzo Meyiwa case. And then number two is that now when Sibiya is being asked, because there's a lot of rumors about his involvement in the case. Now, he says he wants to clear his name. He says he's done nothing wrong. He said he was called. He was never called by uh, even the Brigadier Gininda nor Baloyi to actually ask him what happened on the fateful day. Now, this is what he says in his timeline. Now, he says on the 26th, he was home in Pretoria. He received the call from acting commissioner, which is Mosigit. Guys, you must remember this thing because now this General Mosigit now is also on the center of this letter of disbanding the PKTT. You see, there's relevant actors that are keep on playing around this. Now, if then Sibiya now has this information that there was a call between him and General Mosigit, who's the acting provisional commissioner. Now, why will the investigating officer and NPA deprive us South African with that information? Because that information is the key to unpack the case. Yes, it's the key to the truth. So these alone, that Brigadier Gininda and Baloyi have deprived us of that information, it means that they'd already started defeating the ends of justice. Oh, all the police officers that came on the crime scene, because it's something that I've been saying, that all the police officers that arrived on the crime scene needs to be charged for defeating the ends of justice, because it appears as if they were not there for the investigation purposes, but it looks like they were there for the reasons that they just there to conceal evidence. They were just there to actually, I don't know what they were there for, because really there's something that is not adding up. General Sibiya also talks to us about that he also went to hospital, and then he decided that around that the crime scene is home, so they had to go home. And he says that even on the yard, they arrived late at night. The crime scene was already processed by the officials. He says experts had already done with their work and there was no blood. Everything was cleaned. Now, the cleaning part is confusing because when you listen to General Sibiya, he's of the view that the cleaning part was done by the police officers. But we know that Warrant Officer Mhlahla and the forensic expert only arrived the following day. Now, this is where this whole matter becomes a problem. Because he says that around 7:30, it's when Senzo Meyiwa was allegedly gunned down. But he only received the call around 11 p.m. Is this the real account or was one of the dotted versions of sequence of events that was dealt with during that sitting? And guys, I know I shouldn't be saying this thing, but I'm always be reminded by what's this lady shrink from USA, Candice Guy. He says, I see the body lying down. I see a lot of people sitting there, a lot of them asking, what are we gonna do? When General Sibiya was saying to us that he called an interview, everybody sit down and they ask, what happened? This explained, and that person explained. And then there was also an argument, who's taking the case? Is it the Hawks or is this person? But then all of them, Musigiti as well as the General Sibiya, they say, Mamria Piecha decided that the case must be investigated by different people. Now, General Sibiya tells us that everybody there was crying. He says he could not even make a way to actually see the body there. He only saw from far the body was lying there instead. He says the hospital was overcrowded. He says that I did not witness the death of this guy, of Senzo Meyiwa. Now, what he explains there is totally different than the evidence that is currently in court. Now, he also makes account that after the hospital, it's late midnight, they went to the crime scene. Guys, I'm not going to go through death by PowerPoint, basically. But this is what happens. After the hospital, they proceeded to the crime scene. They went home. They arrived in the house. Upon arriving, he says that he found the senior officials were busy, and it was chaos. So you see, there's two things. There was busy and there was chaos and there was no blood. He says he is the one that after midnight that he said they must secure the crime scene to try and preserve anything. Guys. Now, in his own words, he says, you know what? The crime scene was already processed, but he says, because he arrived late, there is no way that he could have been the one who contaminated the scene, because the crime scene was already contaminated according to his observation when he arrived on the crime scene. So this definitely proves a different things than what is currently happening in court. Then I have these questions that the crime scene integrity cannot be confirmed. So now we need to actually start to questioning what will have been the narrative of the lead investigator for them to actually try and piece out this investigation. Now, I know that what is the center to this is a bullet. Now, if then the crime scene was contaminated, therefore, then the story of a bullet and how the bullet and how the testing was done is very far-fetched. It's very far-fetched. I cannot believe that. That story cannot be believed. That story now has a lot of issues around it. So therefore, based on General Sibiya's comments on in Parliament, I can tell you what. There is something wrong in the case that is currently taking place in Ratcha's court. Sibiya says that there were a lot of people that were investigators that were replaced. Understand? So now, it's very strange. It is very strange because when we look at this account of the information from the court versus Sibiya, I'm saying that I'm finding out these things that are very conflicting narratives. And this is when we miss the bulldog. It's when we reflect and think about Mgomezulu, because when you see what Sibiya has said, when you heard, but in court evidence, we heard that Advocate Mgomezulu has claimed that General Sibiya was one of the first people to arrive in the crime scene. He also called Warrant Officer Makubo to reconstruct the crime scene, to assist with the crime scene, to see whether these people are telling the truth or not. And an officer, then Makubo told Sibiya that there were no intruders. You understand? Now, this is why I still remain shocked that, you know what, Sibiya's testimony and what we've heard in the court evidence, it remains a mystery. It shows us that something is rotten in Ratcha's court. I would like to quote Shakespeare. In the Macbeth play, there's a statement that said, there's something rotten in a state of Denmark. I've always said that because there's a lot of cover-up, I think even witchcraft is involved in the Senzo Meyiwa case, because you see that there's a truth that it appears to be clear to us, but for some odd reason, in that court, nobody wants to see it and nobody wants to speak about it. Why is it South African and the Meyiwa family has to wait 10 years for people like General Sibiya to speak? We had to wait 10 years to provide a platform like Obaba, like Absalom Zongo, that actually spoke something that is totally not the same as what is happening in court. When I say witchcraft, and then I started to call the play Macbeth. Every time when Macbeth was passing through, they will always say, "Oh, hail, Thane of honor," or "Oh, hail, King Macbeth." Those were witches. Those witches were already ordaining Macbeth for something that is not there. They even made a promise to Macbeth. They said to him, "Macbeth, thou shalt not be killed until thou shalt not be killed by a woman born man. And the day you'll be killed, it's when the forest of the burning would move towards the castle of Dansonan." Now, they were giving assurance to Macbeth that, you know what? That means it's only Jesus Christ that will come and unalive me. Because in doing so, if the wishes of all the promises that they've told me have come true, I become the highest order, and then I'm now the king. Now it means that I am not going to be unalived by any person but Jesus. Hey guys. And then that means nothing is going to happen to me. When on earth will that burning forest move towards the castle? I didn't see it coming because Macduff, he was born through a C-section, but it was a brutal one because his mom was not well, so he had to be uh, um, 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 they had to do a brutal C-section, but his mom did not survive. But Macduff survived. But then when the Macduff's troop were coming towards the Dansonan castle, they needed to use a cover. So they cut the trees of the burning wood forest. They were using it as a cover to move closer towards the castle. I am saying this because it's a prophecy that all we need in this case, in resolving this case, it's something that is extraordinary. We need extraordinary things like a July 6th statement that happens on corners, which have made people to speak about other things that we never heard the truth about. Now, I want us to know that for any person to successfully convict a person in a criminal matter, a chain of evidence is very critical. Senzo Meyiwa, who arrived on the crime scene, the evidence by Gininda and Baloyi, what they collected, and the court proceedings. With all of these implications, I can tell you what, the 5 accused persons are really, really being framed for something that they don't know, especially with relating to the Senzo Meyiwa case. We now know that there is a communication flow that we know that was never being told to us. Acting Commissioner of Gauteng calls General Sibiya. It was a done deal. The scene was contaminated. He says 37 years it's been working on this thing. So this has a huge implication that investigation was compromised from the start. So that means that now there's no bullet that should be brought to court. This raises a question about the chain of command and the chain of evidence. Could you explain why subsequent investigation has strangled? So guys, I've actually did this thing being sarcastic and being tongue-in-cheek because we know that with Brigadier Gininda, every second word he uses is subsequent. So I use that word just for being in tongue-in-cheek. What this thing is important is that we need answers. Because if this evidence in Parliament by General Sibiya is to be believed, it changes the whole case in Racha's court. I say in conclusion, Sibiya's statement contradicts everything that is in court. Sibiya's statement raises the issue of investigation integrity by Brigadier Gininda. Well, human element, well, these are real questions. It was a done deal. A scene was already contaminated. So guys, defense team, you need to go to Parliament and look at the evidence of General Sibiya. Here's the record. You need to look at Sibiya's 205 versus Mosegidi's 205. We need to question the forensic investigation report. Both the lab, we had the DNA that didn't match them. Now, the issue of the gun, it also has holes in it. So therefore, may the spirit of Ngomezulu continue to speak, to guide people. May his work not be forgotten. Let it not be a black screen like this, because a black screen like this means South African justice system is being compromised. Our court process is not being respected. Our SAPS investigation will not be respected. So, my good people, I always say to us as News for Sure, we are unapologetic. We are asking very serious questions, and we want to analyze things truthfully and honest. I thank you till the next recording.